This episode of Important If True is brought to you by Quip. Electric toothbrushes sent to your home with brush head refills every 3 months. And if you go to tryquip.com/thumbs, you will get your first brush head refill free. That is tryquip.com/thumbs. In case you're wondering what it is, it's January 4th.
I know. Sorry, I knew that. I was on the brink of sneezing for that entire.
Oh, I wasn't trying to shame you.
Oh, I thought you were trying to just not shame me.
In case anyone was wondering, in case anyone whose job it is to know this,
to know the date,
doesn't know it.
In case there's some itzer around here slacking off.
Yeah, in case there's some subprime itzer.
The subprime itzer crisis.
Yeah.
Dipshit itzer alert.
A dipshitzer.
Dipshitzer. Anyway, I'm not saying who. I just mean if anyone is that person. It's January 4th right now.
It's January 4th, 2018.
Oh my God.
And this is Important If True.
For Idle Thumbs, I am Chris Remo.
I'm Nick Brecken.
And I'm Jake Rodkin. Hey
guys. Getting into the 2018 mood by just being worse.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
No way. That intro was like one of the best ones.
That's
that was
true.
one of the tops.
You know what? You're right.
Nick is ringing in this new year on an optimistic and new note.
Yep.
Although we're recording this in the past.
Yeah.
So we don't know yet what 2018 has in store. We could guess.
It's real. It's occurred to me that we keep doing these. We've had to prep so many of these episodes. Important if true, I fairly appropriately at this point in my brain feels like it just exists in some kind of indefinite slipstream, some sort of temporal melange of dates and weeks and years at this point, where all the things we're saying into the mic just sort of flow out into the space-time continuum and get garbled up and spit back out onto podcatchers with reckless abandon.
Yeah,
I don't know how any of it works anymore.
Yeah, Important if True's existence in the time stream is definitely sort of the spaceship spiraling out of control in like the dusty asteroid belt where there's just little bits flying off of it as it careens up and down through things,
smashing into things,
just making a mess,
destroying things on an astral scale.
Yeah.
I like to think of it as that we're a timeless podcast. I mean, we're a
timeless podcast.
That's good. In more ways than one, we are a timeless podcast. Very good. I like that.
Yeah.
It's our new slogan for 2018.
That's the optimistic 2018 version of it. Yeah.
Important if true, timeless.
Yeah.
That's our attempt to like rebrand this podcast for the upscale prestige podcast market.
Yeah,
we could be a podcast out of time as well. That also just implies that we're hurried, rushed messes.
True. That's true. I was thinking like visit our pop-up podcast store at Tiffany, but yours is a different.
Ours
thing.
is just we're a mess.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Speaking of a mess.
Okay. I love to speak of a mess.
Well, it's January now, but those of us who exist on the internet, remember that in December, Patreon, the place that we use for like our ad-free podcast and subscribers, made a huge mess of everything when they changed how all of their funding, how all of their financing worked. Yeah. Where previously Patreon, it's a for those of you who don't know, hi, welcome. We have an ad-free version of this podcast available at patreon.com/idlethumbs. The way that Patreon,
the most exclusive among you may be listening to that right now.
Yes, you might. The way that Patreon works generally is you can find someone whose creative work you like or a project that someone's doing, and you can agree to become a patron of theirs. And for a small amount of money a month, you'll support what they're doing. And Patreon previously had if you back someone or if you are a patron of someone at like a few dollars, Patreon would actually not give that creator the full amount of your money. They would take a processing fee out. And then they briefly decided, okay, well, instead what we want to do is pass the cost on to you, the interested financier. So if you backed someone for $10, it would charge you $10.35.
A little more than that, because it was $10 plus 2.9% plus 35 cents.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's right. But but then that 35 cents tacked all the way down to like people who are even just paying $1.
Right. So which is like huge additional.
It's like a 35% increase. and I became briefly panicked, as did a lot of people on Patreon because patrons were dropping off.
Yeah, a lot of Patreon campaign runners, including us, lost a lot of people because of that scare.
Yeah, and I was trying to think of what the most like brash ways were that Important If True could try to scrounge patrons back.
Yeah,
and the thing that I settled on that I thought would ultimately yield a successful outcome for us would be to just start live streaming episodes of Frasier on the Important If True Patreon feed, and to rename our Patreon Stream Frasier Live Free.
What, like one of those just like search engine optimized?
Yeah,
like
just and then we literally just once every hour like post a new episode of Frasier ad free. But then I realized that we could really double down on this.
Yeah.
If we started digitally inserting ads for other Patreons into our Frasier episodes.
Is this a solidarity thing or like a
no? They pay us.
Oh, I see. Okay,
like
so
we're the king of Patreon, Patreon Mountain now, with our Frasier streaming grift, and then
hold on a sec. The Patreon ad free feed is for podcasts. Are you suggesting we would post the audio feed of Frasier every hour to our Patreon?
I wasn't sure, but I thought
that's an amazing.
I thought that was probably the best way to go. Yes, would be that your podcast suddenly just has like this third episode of season 2 of Frasier on it.
Yeah,
but no ads. Except then suddenly someone does a really good Kelsey Grammer impression and is just like,
yeah. How long do you think it would take for your average Important If True listener to realize that they weren't just listening to an extended bit on Important If True? When this sort of tossed salad and scrambled eggs theme song comes on, it's like, oh, they're going to talk about some stupid Frasier
bullshit. But then they're like, I really love Kind of Funny with Greg Miller. And you're like, excuse me? I really love independent comic artists because those people have paid us now that they see that we're onto something big and we're the number one Patreon thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, too bad we missed our shot.
I know. Patreon instead fixed it and changed their funding model.
Confronted with the enormity of
they were like, God, people are just going to start pirating
the Frasier override. Directive.
They were really worried that their platform was just going to become a piracy mechanism for old Frasier episodes, so they backed off on their pledge strategy.
Where else are you going to see? Where else are you going to listen to Frasier?
Your favorite Frasier
every hour on the hour. I mean, they may or may not be your favorite.
Yeah.
When it comes to Frasier, every episode is my favorite, especially when they have naturally inserted recommendations to modern products that I'm interested in.
That is our take on that SeamBI, like inserting new movie advertisements into
we release
old
Frasier
sitcoms.
episodes as podcasts and then find a couple of sound-alike actors.
Actually, you know what? Because a part of the plot of Frasier is that the titular Frasier is a radio host.
Yeah.
So
it's all coming together, Chris.
It's all coming together. We could definitely there's technology now, I'm sure you guys have seen this, that like can recreate the voice of people if you feed it like a corpus of spoken audio from a person, and then it can like synthesize new text read aloud in their voice by processing all of their stuff. So we just need to give it enough Kelsey Grammer, Frasier spoken word, and then from there we can reinsert our paid for Patreon.
Yeah, when Kelsey Grammer sells people on Quip toothbrushes and shit,
exactly,
it's gonna be awesome.
Oh my God,
I love me undies and I am Frasier. Like what?
Buy a Casper. It's gonna be that. It'll be so convincing we won't need to dress it up with fancy language.
Yeah. I am sleeping on a Casper mattress.
Okay. Well, good, Jake.
I thought that Chris.
I like it. I love it.
I was looking out for all of us with the work that I was putting in on this.
I love it. I mean, I'm only sad we didn't get the opportunity to execute.
We missed
this
out.
Plan.
I mean, we could still just do it.
That's true. Yeah, stay tuned. Well, it's 2018. We have plenty of time now. It's a fresh new year. We can implement.
I hope it's fresh.
It fucking better be fresh and new. We have plenty of time to implement all Frasier-related ideas, or potentially other ideas as well, Frasier or not. And having just concluded,
one of the two types of ideas, Frasier and other.
There are two kinds of people in this world: Frasier Crane and everyone else. That's my Amazon auto-generated mug or shirt.
That's what Niall Crane wears in every episode.
What, Nick?
So that's the shirt that Niles Crane wears every episode, sadly.
That's a bummer.
I like that Chris gestured at his chest and said the word mug.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing.
You were being an Amazon product creator. You were saying that's a great mug, and you were gesturing at your chest because it will be a picture of a mug that says that on it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And it will say mug, size men's large.
Well, if you're looking for other ways to plot out your 2018, we've just concluded the holiday season. If you have a family, your gift giving could have gone well, could have gone badly. We talked about some bad gifts recently, but there is a tool you can use if you implement this now. There is a tool that a reader wrote in to us about. Peter wrote in about this. Reader Peter, who I don't know why I said that. Who tells us about this device called the Elves Behavin Badly dummy security camera. You could hook this up in your home and have a full year's worth of naughty, nice behavior surveillance to help inform your gift giving for the next holiday season when it runs around. So Peter writes...
What is this?
This is a actually, you know what? I guess it doesn't actually leave you with any surveillance now that I think about it. This is a fake security camera. It is the Elves Behavin Badly dummy security camera, and what it is it is essentially a mock-up of a surveillance camera that you install in your home to fool your children into believing that you have 24/7 surveillance of their lives, but in reality it's just plastic that does nothing.
Wow, I've never hated anything more than that.
Yeah, and it's called the Elves Behavin with an apostrophe.
Wow,
Elves Behavin.
Further cementing my hatred of it more than anything else.
The Elves Behavin Badly dummy security camera. Peter writes, I'm not sure what's more disturbing, the nonchalant threat from the elf on the box or the product description. Encourage good behavior this Christmas from your little ones with this fantastic dummy CCTV camera where Elfie is watching and reporting to Santa good or bad behavior, making the run-up to Christmas better for all.
What's the elf's threat?
Hold on. This genius dummy CCTV camera features a red flashing light that makes it all the more real, sure to keep the children in line. Simply attach the camera in your child's room and have them thinking that Elfie is watching their behavior. They wouldn't want Santa to know that they're being naughty. And the threat on the front of the box, the additional little word bubble from the elf is incredible. It's a little elf, like classical elf in striped stockings, sitting down there, and he's got a word bubble, and he's going, "Hey, I'm watching you." And it's just there, and there's kids playing, and there's this
the juxtaposition
looking fucking eye robot. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, just the juxtaposition, of those two images, like the "Hey, I'm watching you," and then the kids are so happy, just yay, and then the eye is just staring down at them.
Yeah, look at this thing, Jake.
God, it's like a
fantastic. It's like a black obsidian orb with a single red LED. It is.
That red LED is Santa, kids, but he's very far away.
Yeah. It's also, by the way, the language of the product description is extraordinary. This is the language written by and for people who are just cheerfully growing up in a surveillance state of all of our own tacit agreement and endorsement. It is the thing that's amazing about it is that it's not even... the thing I would imagine this to be, my imagined version of this would be literally the opposite of it in all respects, where it is a real security camera designed to look like something that isn't a security camera so you can keep tabs on your kids. I'm not saying that isn't fucked up for different reasons, but that's the version of it that I would...
bear that you can watch your child.
Yeah, that's the version of it I would expect. That's the one that's like... because that's the one that I feel like that's the one that I feel like is traditionally honest, right? It's like you as a parent have this deep sort of possibly overzealous and maybe slightly shameful desire to be incredibly overprotective, but you know that it's not socially acceptable to do that, and you know that you don't want to instill your children with this constant pervasive threat of being watched. So you dress it up in a fake teddy bear or something, and then you shamefully, check out the archives once a day or something. This is the complete opposite. This is like, oh, you're totally fine with bringing up your children in an environment where they are under constant surveillance all the time, under the like cold, watchful glare of this
right. And then you're like, you know
robot.
Who's behind that? Santa Claus.
Yeah. It's the total opposite. I mean, again, both of these are pretty bad.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good because he is monitoring and chronicling them all in a database that will be attached to your identity forever.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
you want Santa to be good to you, and you want to be president someday, right?
Right? I mean, that's kind of it. It's like raising your kids for a world in which every single thing they ever do or say, because most of what they do or say will be captured by technology in some form or fashion, is going to be there.
Well, maybe this is like, honest, Chris. Maybe this is a great parenting device.
You remember when in kids' cartoons, like Doug or whatever on Nickelodeon, remember how kids...
Okay, we're going to Doug?
Well, I'm just, you know how, or like this whatever show, you know how people would always talk about your permanent record?
Yeah.
That was never a real thing. There was never a permanent record that followed you around from school to school. But now we just like voluntarily insert our entire lives into the permanent record that is essentially a collection of public databases that everyone we know can search.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to say much more than that. I mean, you know, I looked into the background of all this stuff. It's actually much more insidious. I mean, basically, we're looking at we're looking at the end state of what this has like been. So I didn't understand any of this, but I just mentioned this product to Janelle, and she knew everything about this phenomenon. So
because she installed a surveillance camera in the phenomenon.
Yeah. No, so this is called Elf on a Shelf, and it's this worldwide phenomenon of like putting elves, like little like elf figurines,
toy elf, okay,
on like the shelf above your like fireplace or something, like 14 days before Christmas or something. You know, I don't. It's sort of arbitrary. Okay. It's a very vague phenomenon. Sure. But the idea is that every day,
Advent for the modern age.
Basically, right. But every morning, the kid comes down and the elves are like positioned in like doing different things, like in different dioramas. Like the parents every night are supposed to be changing these scenes to imply that the elves are alive and kind of like watching them. Okay. So then I looked back and figured out like, why is this even a thing? So this is all the invention of this book, this children's book from 2005 called The Elf on the Shelf, A Christmas Tradition, which is incredible because it's literally never been a tradition until that book was written.
Right, yeah.
It is an entirely invented contrivance. Like, it is complete garbage. The plot of the book is the story describes how Santa's scout elves hide in people's homes to watch over events. Once everyone goes to bed, the scout elf flies back to the North Pole to report to Santa the activities. So basically, like long story short, this phenomenon has been appropriated by a British company trying to bring it to the UK. And the British company...
Oh, but since it's in the UK, it's on a CCTV.
Right, exactly. Like, but I mean, also they have this whole brand called Elf Behavin badly, which is really actually like taking it to another disturbing level because their whole conceit is that the elves are not only watching you, they're also just fucking up your house.
Naughty.
Yeah, they're also just like doing shitty things. So they have this like thing on their Facebook page where they're like, show your elves behaving badly, and it's just like regular elf dolls, but all the pictures that people send in are just like elves like emptying spaghetti all over the floor, or like elves just like taking other like toys and like putting them in the washing machine, just like all this like shitty stuff. So like not only are they like surveilling you, they're also just like fucking up your whole life. It's completely insane. What? The only thing about any of this that I appreciate is that so they had Elves on a Shelf. And then some Jewish people like kickstarted this thing called Mensch on a Bench, which I really appreciate, just as like a play on words. But anyway, that's the whole thing is just completely fucked up. And
does the Mensch just like help you out instead of fucking up?
Yeah, no, he just kind of hangs out on the bench, and he's just like a stuffed animal that just hangs out. Just a good guy.
Yeah. This like cyber elf like home terrorist stuff is so Yule Lad adjacent that I can't really deal with it. Except that it's like just a crap version
Except
of
it's just a garbage. It's not even like clever.
It's like, why are they doing it? They just suck.
They're bad. They don't like you. They don't like your home or you.
Why did they do it? Because you were doing it to yourself for the sake of posting a photo to social media.
True. It's true.
Yeah, basically.
All of these are just microcosms for our time. You know what's ridiculous, Nick, when you say that? The notion that the Elves Behavin Badly dummy CCTV camera is in the tradition of Elf on the Shelf is preposterous to me, because this is not even, again, like, I need to reiterate my initial, like, surprise over what this actually is versus what I would assume it to be. It's not even an elf. It is just a fucking like cold, soulless orb that stares at you. It's not. There's nothing about it that is elfin.
Chris,
in any
children
way.
have wonderful imaginations.
There's a little cartoon elf drawn on the side of it.
Yeah, and you look at that every night when you're in bed and just imagine what that elf is thinking about.
Yeah. God. I mean, I assume there's also I assume someone makes one of these that is an actual elf figurine that sits on the hearth and
just has blinking red eyes. It also has no camera in it. It just stares at children.
Yeah.
No, that's the real camera. That one has the real camera. Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's an even more insidious way to get your children to like voluntarily put themselves under surveillance is tie the like camera in the eye elf doll into the like fun daily tradition of putting them in wacky positions on the shelf. Because then you're just like the kids like love the elf. They're like, oh, this is my elf.
Show the elf that you're dressed properly for school.
Right, exactly.
And then the elf goes and looks at you. And you're like,
yeah, God, you could turn that into a whole thing. Yeah. The elf really wants to know that you finished your homework and ate your broccoli. Elf wants to make sure.
Yeah, but imagine all these things being true, but then the kid is just going and showing it to the orb camera in the corner of their room.
No.
Oh God.
It has no anthropomorphized elf on it.
Oh, barf.
Oof.
Terrible. Elves behave
What if you
badly.
tell your kid, you're like, well, Santa has really good machine learning algorithms, like far better than ours.
Yeah.
And the camera, just hold it up and it'll recognize if you did your homework correctly.
Yeah.
And it'll judge you naughty or nice, so it's okay. It'll tell you.
That would probably be shockingly effective, but would also likely have the ability to backfire in the most.
Yeah, it would raise a generation of cyber warriors who put the crazy face paint and weird clothing on themselves so that Santa only sees them as good and only gets them the best toys.
Right.
And then they know how to take down the fucking government, Chris.
Well, except it would raise an army of like failed criminals who are like, I know how to bypass the elf eye.
Yeah.
Like that guy who was a attempted burglar who got caught because he brazenly just like robbed a store with no mask or anything. And when he got caught, he's like, how did you find me? And they're like, you literally just like had your face on a camera in a store. And he's like, but I was wearing the juice. And they're like, what? And apparently this guy read on some internet forum, some like anti-government, like anti-conspiracy or conspiracy thing, that if you cover your face in lemon juice, cameras can't see you. So he just covered his face in lemon juice and just openly robbed a store. And the end, he was caught. His face looked like a face. A slightly lacquered face. So I can imagine kids in the tradition of kids like determining their own. If you remember back from, I don't even remember what episode of Important if True it was, but when we were talking about the Furbies that kids
this is the goblin, this is the ghost.
Yeah, that they were like deemed the Furby skeleton to be the goblin and the Furby skin to be the ghost.
Right, that was like episode 3 or something.
It was a long time ago. Yeah, if you imagine children like creating their own elf camera defeating lore.
Or the guy in the Bad Gift episode who declared that he knew about which dimension aliens were from and all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. That's totally a kid thing, is to like determine amongst yourselves that you've figured out some knowledge, and then
so there's this like
instantly convinced by it.
Colloquial kid stories about like the psyops that you have to initiate to bypass your elf camera.
Right, exactly.
And then that has no bearing on actually managing to escape the crazy fascist state in which you live.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless the people who create that are of your same generation and they've modeled it all on what they believe to be elf technology.
Right, their own unconscious biases about the reality of these detection devices have somehow filtered their way. I think that's what people mean when they talk about embedded bias in algorithms. Yeah. I think what they mean is like kids grow up thinking that you can put lemon juice on your face to escape your HAL 9000 elf eye, and that ends up being true. I think that's pretty much what people mean when they say that. Good.
The elf eye also has a really bad time hiring women and people of color.
Yeah, it's quite a problem.
I mean, you've seen elves.
That's true. They're all just little white dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you brought it up.
I know.
You have to own that.
No, yeah, they sell a black elf on their website, but it's not a black elf. It's just wearing a black suit.
Oh, fuck off! For real?
It's terrible. Yeah. Yep. Everything
That's like
about
a
it's
stealth
bad.
elf.
All right, I can't deal with this anymore. We got to stop.
A stealth elf on a shelf.
Yeah, it's enough. It's too much for me.
Fine.
You have more to say here? You can keep.
I feel like that spoke for itself.
I think it did too. Let's move on. Okay, we have an email from Phoebe. This is on a very different note. Phoebe writes, "With this semester winding down, I have a conundrum. I live in a suite-style dorm with 5 other students, none of whom I knew before this semester. At the beginning of the semester, all of us bought items for the suite's shared spaces, a common area, and a bathroom. Unfortunately, as the semester has gone on, my roommates have gotten increasingly intolerable, not cleaning up after themselves, being loud at 3 a.m., etc. Because of this, I'll be moving to a new dorm next semester, but I'm left with a decision. I haven't told my roommates I'm leaving. We rarely speak, and there's no good icebreaker for this conversation. So how do I handle the shared items that I bought? Do I just not say anything and make off with my cleaning supplies and hand towels like a thief in the night? It's hard to imagine they won't notice me packing my bags and moving away if I take the things from the common areas with me, but I don't want to leave behind things I spent money on. How would you handle this situation? Help is greatly appreciated. Signed, is it technically stealing if I bought it? In Pittsburgh." God, this is real. This is real shit.
I wasn't sure if this was about furniture or about small things because Phoebe specifically says putting it in a handbag, but if it is about furniture, I mean, if this sounds like it's all about avoiding confrontation while reclaiming things that are yours.
Yeah,
and
for some reason I categorize this as being about furniture.
Because when I hear common area things, I think as a person who shared an apartment that it's about furniture, and I think we can give furniture advice as well. Although dorm advice, I mean, the central piece though in Phoebe's problem, I think the fulcrum point might be. You can get away with this because the problem is that your housemates don't care. I think that might mean that the solution is that they don't care.
That's probably true.
So, I mean, well, that said, if you want to be super insidious, and it is furniture, I'm assuming since you're college students, it's probably IKEA furniture.
Yeah.
Which means you could you could snidely whiplash this. You basically 2 or 3 days before you leave, just get the hex wrench out and just take a couple bolts off of the furniture.
What, so it just starts to collapse?
Yeah, table is going to fall over, or someone's going to lean back in that chair, and the leg's just going to fall off, and you're
that's a good idea.
And you're like, oh, that sucks.
Oh, it sucks. I'll take
care of it for you.
Place.
Yeah, and then it's yours. And also you paid for it, so you paid for it, Phoebe. You're an organized sounding person, Phoebe, which means that you probably have all of the stupid IKEA wrenches and stuff in a Ziploc bag, either taped to the underside of the table or in a drawer somewhere that no one else has looked in.
Right.
So that's the sort of malevolent shithead way to get rid of it.
Really good. Wow.
Yeah, it is. But also the fact that your roommates don't care mean that you probably don't need to do that, and you could probably just take the furniture. The other thing that I was thinking about is if it's smaller items, I think the scientific method should be employed, and to see how much they care. If there's just 2 cleaning products on a shelf, just take one of them now. Just take it now and put it in a bag.
Yeah,
no one's going to care. I mean, if you really want,
yeah.
you could replace it with a little paper cutout that has the name of the product on it. But I think that might draw more attention to it. Windex.
What exactly is the function of that?
So that your eyes sort of pass over the shelf, but you don't see that it's gone.
Okay.
But you might trigger people's awareness that there's a cartoon drawing of a Windex on a piece of paper.
Here's what you do: take photographs of everything in the home and all the shared spaces. Print out high resolution images of them,
and then
cut them out
as little paper dolls,
and then slowly replace everything in your apartment.
Literally
with printed out paper cutouts.
I tried to sit down on the chair, but I realized that it was just only looked like a chair from the angle of me coming in the door, and it's literally just a huge banner of a chair from Kinko's.
Right, but here's the thing with the...
And then you're like, this furniture's really flimsy.
Yeah, I guess IKEA, am I right? Wow, what a piece of shit. I mean, the thing I was thinking when you talked about the sort of sabotaging the IKEA furniture was that they could, on the one hand, the roommates could not care and you could just take the busted furniture. But if there's like a level of not caring that gets so extreme that they might also just not care that the furniture is bad and still
and just
whatever, I can deal with it.
Destroy it even more. You're like, no, my furniture. Like, no. That's true. That could totally backfire. Yeah. So could just slowly taking things.
Yeah.
Because this could be a situation where they 100% don't care and like are just like write off the fact that they don't do chores. But it could be that they care only enough to be really insecure about it and then blame you if you take the cleaning supplies and they're like, where's the Windex? And you're
right.
Like, dude, you don't ever use the Windex. I was going to clean everything today.
Yeah.
Now that I noticed that you took it and you were making a point about the fact that I don't clean that I secretly feel really guilty about. So like you have to be really careful with the first steps here. Or just rip the Band-Aid off and on the day that you leave, just say, I'm moving out and sorry, these are my cleaning supplies. I need them for the new apartment.
It's
Bye.
mine. Yeah.
Well, so you got to go one of the two ways: the most ginger, scientific, just probe, or just eat shit, just blow it up and go.
Right. I mean, that last one might be the way to go, depending on the kind of roommates you have. Because Nick, I feel like you can relate to this, given our shared roommate experiences. The other possible roommate type is the sort of super chill but also super passive aggressive roommate, where if you start like reclaiming your own things, they won't say anything about it, but they will just like literally go into your room and like look through all your stuff and take the thing that they want to use.
You guys had a person who literally did that?
I mean, Nick, I think you have things that are still in the possession of this person.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, the last day that we were in that, or that I was in that apartment, I did go into his room,
take your shit back,
and took my shit back. But then while I was there, I just discovered multiple other things that I didn't even know that I'd lost. Right. That were just, like, a blanket that I forgot that I owned that you've been using for a year. Yeah. That can definitely like backfire on you.
I mean, the thing that is like the big risk. I mean, it sounds like, Phoebe doesn't mention this, so maybe it's not applicable to her situation. The worst fucking roommate move is to just ruin all your shit to the point that you don't even want to take it back anymore. It's like basically the equivalent of a dog marking its territory by pissing on things, which is just like using your stuff so aggressively and disrespectfully that it actually like degrades the thing. And then you're like, well, great. Now I can take my busted thing back, or I can just leave it here.
Right. It's actually better to treat this apartment that I'm moving out of as a trash can.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. God, Nick, you should tell... This is not really related to reclaiming furniture. You should tell the story about... I don't know how to like introduce this without spoiling the punchline of the story. But the time you got home at night to find a messy surprise.
What?
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No.
something had been spilled all over that sort of adjacent living room.
Oh my! I don't remember what you're talking about, Chris. I wish I did. Oh no.
Is it a controlled
I could jog
substance?
my memory here?
Yeah, it might have been a controlled substance.
Oh, that's not the story, Chris.
Oh.
That's a whole thing.
Okay.
Oh, well, let's do this.
Let's fucking do it then. Let's buckle in.
Well, that was the one night that I actually socialized with our roommate.
Oh, right. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah, you were gone.
And
so I was trapped by this man, and it was the kind of roommate that I just what he was like. It was like, just like fairly affable up to a point, but then you kind of realize like this person lives a life that I don't really want to get involved in.
I feel like I was able to like kind of coast by with him by sort of just, I was able to sort of like force myself to just be like, yeah, okay, whatever, it's fine. You two were basically at your wits' ends with each other all the time.
Oh man, yeah, no, and so like I always kind of felt bad about that, you know, and when you were gone, he was kind of in one of his moods where I couldn't quite be angry at him. Like there was no way for me to kind of wall myself off and just say I'm not putting up with you today. He was just being so affable and like, oh, come out and like, I made breakfast and just I'm a happy roommate guy. And he was like, do you want to like go out and just get like a beer tonight just down at the bar like 2 blocks away? And I was like, I guess so. I don't know. Fine. I'll just sort of pay for the months of me not having to deal with you all in one go. I'll have like a single beer with you, and that will be it. That will be the end of this story, and I will never have to talk to you ever again. And so we went and had a beer.
And flawed premise, but okay.
Yeah. We went and had a beer, and then it turned into 2 beers, and I was just trying to find a way to like get out of the situation, but he just kept drinking. And then as we were leaving the bar, we're sitting on the, like, we're just like, he was like, I need to have a smoke or something. So we went outside of the bar, and he started just talking to people, and I assumed that they were his friends, but he was just like striking up a conversation with this random group of people who he then like glommed on to us somehow. And then now I'm stuck in this like weird situation, and I really want to leave. And he was like, oh, okay, well, let's just go back to our apartment. And I was like, oh God, he's inviting random people into our apartment. All right, at least I can go back and just lock the door. At least I can go back and just, have my quarter of the apartment that is just sealed off from whatever is about to happen. And so now there are like 5 people marching towards our apartment, and I'm like I'm dying inside. Like I'm just like sweating and just so furious that this is like turned into something that the contract was signed. It was a beer, and now it's this whole other thing. And then we're on the way, and one of the people that he had talked to was like, you guys want to just like stop on the way to your place? Because like my place is like right here, and I have like, I'm a wine cellar. I just have like, tons of wine that we could just bring. And I was like, I mean, it's on the way. I guess I could. All right. And so now we're just walking into this person's house, and he's like, shh, everyone be quiet. Like, my daughter's trying to sleep. And he opens this door. This is like a San Francisco apartment. Basically is like a very small 2-bedroom apartment. He opens this enormous door, and there's just like, it's like a wine vault. Like,
I've never heard this part of the
thousands of bottles of wine just stacked to the ceiling. Like it was insane. And so now everybody's got like 6 bottles of wine. Just we're like barreling out of this guy's house. Yeah. We get back to our apartment, and I just start to beeline for the bedroom. And Brandon's like, "Where are you going? Like, don't you want to have like some of this expensive wine?" And I was like, I don't really care. Maybe sure, I'll have like 1 glass. And so he's like, he puts all the wine on this table that you and I had purchased, Chris, that we never got back from him, by the way.
I know.
And on the table was this enormous model ship. Do you remember this thing?
I very strongly remember this. So the ship.
Wait, that was neither of yours?
No.
I thought that was Nick's. That seemed like a Nick thing to just have.
It does kind of seem like a Nick thing, but the thing that was like really annoying about it is that he was entrusted with this ship by his uncle, as I recall. And it was like a total piece of shit. I mean, like, it was theoretically really cool, but it had just been trashed. Like, it was like a big model ship. It dominated this table that Nick and I bought to actually use.
It's like a 3-foot long ship. I mean, it's this huge, enormous ship.
But it was like in complete disrepair. Like, masts were snapped. Like, the rigging was all fucked up. And he was like, when he first brought it in, he's like, oh, I'm going to spend the weekend like restoring this and re-rigging it, and then I'm going to give it back to my uncle. And I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Like, that's super cool. That thing was there for the entire duration of living there, and it was still just a total piece of shit, like just bundle of wood, basically, like sitting on this table. So,
Brandon later admitted to me 2 things. One which is pertinent to the end of the story. The first being that he never intended to restore that ship, and he doesn't know how to restore model ships. He said that to this old man so that he could get the ship, and he knew the old man was going to die soon, and he was hoping to just have the ship when the man died so he could just now take the ship and own it. So he basically was doing what he did to our furniture, but with an old man and his model ship.
And similar to what he did with our furniture, it was intrinsically not worth anything if you're just going to treat it like shit and never make it not like shit anymore.
The other thing he told me is that this ship had a history. And so, all these people came back to the apartment, and everyone's pouring wine, and everyone's like, what is this giant model ship, Brandon? Tell us about this. And he's like, well, this ship was given to this old man that I know, and he told me the story that it was actually used to smuggle drugs in from Mexico. They would put cocaine. They would put cocaine in the hold of this fake ship and then just like take it across the border, and no one would check it because it just looks like a model ship. It wasn't an actual ship. Yeah. And as he's explaining this,
don't check that one, guys. That's not a real ship.
Right. As he's explaining this, he just starts taking out bags of cocaine, like actual cocaine, and laying it on the table. And he's like, in this ship, I'm going to restore it soon. And he's just like casually like setting lines of cocaine out on the table as he's talking about this cocaine drug smuggling ship.
I didn't know any of this detail.
And I was like, all right. He was like, what, Nick, you're not going to do any? And I was like, no, goodbye. I'm now, this is finally over. We have reached the point at which it is no longer like awkward for me to leave. It is actually very, very necessary. It was a disaster.
Oh my
anyway, it's just that guy.
What?
I mean, Landis, like...
Was it fine after that? What the hell?
No, of course not. I sat, like, huddling in my room, just, like, terrified of what was going to happen with, like, strangers doing cocaine at our apartment. I think I texted you. I'm pretty sure I just said, like, there are people doing cocaine in our apartment right now, Chris. Like, I don't know what to do.
You did, yeah. I mean, you did. Well, but the thing you said was there's cocaine all over the table. Like, I don't, and I was like, I always internalize this as like, you came home to find the remnants of a like coke-fueled party. Yeah. That's always how I interpreted this.
Well, I think I may have sent that text the next morning, at which point there still was cocaine on the table, which I had to clean up.
Right. That part I remember, yes. I remember that.
Yeah.
God. All right. Well,
yeah, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We should definitely take a break at this
point. I hope that helps, Phoebe. Let's take a break. This episode of Important if True is brought to you by Quip. Electric toothbrushes sent to your home with brush head refills every 3 months, so your bristles are always fresh. Every 3 months, you'll get a new brush head to just pump up those good bristles and that great mouthfeel. And if you go to tryquip.com/thumbs, you'll get your first brush head refill free, no matter what plan you choose.
So we have a Quip related email this week. Thomas Huber writes, "Dear Quip crew, on your last pod, Chris explained how the timer worked on a Quip toothbrush and how it buzzes when you should move from quadrant to quadrant. His listed quadrants were inside top, inside bottom, and outside bottom.
Yeah.
This seems wrong. The surface area on the inner quadrants is much smaller than the outer, but they are given equal time. I would like
smaller?
I would like to suggest you use my correct quadrants, top left, top right, bottom left. This should normalize the surface area to time ratio."
No, that sucks. Your top teeth are way bigger than your bottom teeth. And how do you do top right? You have to like do half of your...
Yeah.
But then you have to split your time between the inside and the outside of that quadrant. Look, here's what all I'm going to say about this. The Quip toothbrush gives you 4 equally timed segments for you to divide up as you wish. I think this email from, who is it?
Thomas.
I think Thomas's method is bullshit. I think it's garbage. But you know what, Thomas? If you get your own Quip, no one's going to stop you. I'm certainly not going to stop you. Go with God. Do it. Divide up your teeth to your heart's
Quip,
content.
Go with God.
It's, great. All power to you, but I think that's nonsense. I stick by the upper outer, upper inner, lower outer, and lower inner. I'm sticking with my plan. But you can stick with any plan you like. By going to tryquip.com/thumbs, you will get your first brush head refill free. I mean, hey, try a different one every day. Try a different method every day. I wouldn't recommend doing that indefinitely because part of what's really great about this toothbrush is that the little timer gets you into the rhythm of a regimen that is consistent every day. And I find when I use a normal toothbrush now, I'm like, I have no idea. Am I brushing my teeth enough? I don't even know. Like, am I getting the equally sized things? Who knows? But, try it out. Spend the first week trying out different quadrants, see how it treats you, and then once you find the one you like, you stick to it forever. Tryquip.com/thumbs. All right. Let's do an
ad. Oh, no, sorry.
Nope. Robert Hoffman asks, if you could total recall 72 consecutive hours worth of astonishingly vibrant memories into your brain, what would you choose to experience? I wonder if this has to... Is this like something that memories we actually have, or
yeah,
no, I mean, it's like inventing.
I mean, if it's total recall,
yeah, that's true. Those are
that means
those are
that just
created.
like you can just create an experience in your brain that you never had, but your memories act as if it's something that actually happened to you.
Right. That's I don't know. This is one of those.
Jeez.
It's like when it's that open ended. I feel like the
context
paralysis,
isn't. Yeah, I mean, like the context isn't that you're living it. It's you're having the memory of it, right? So that's got to be taken into account.
Well, that's the whole point of Total Recall is that you like
right.
It's as though you had that experience.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's not like like not you wouldn't necessarily want it to be like 72 hours of just like kicking it on my couch, like you know what I mean, like
right.
It's just,
yeah. Although maybe if just every weekend I could have an additional memory of 3 weekends injected, maybe that wouldn't be the worst. I'm just like I'm so relaxed. But why do I feel so tired?
God, it depends. Do the physiological benefits of rest and relaxation work if they're like? Would you have been in a situation where you're like?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, you're like,
although you would,
God, I just know I'm relaxed, but I'm so exhausted because I spent those 72 like. Unbeknownst to me, I spent those 72 hours in the fucking like AI salt mines or whatever.
You didn't actually. Someone just went and just said, "Okay, your brain has 3 additional days of
no." But I'm saying in reality, what you did was your terrible life.
Oh,
and so
I see.
Your body is like, your life sucks, and your brain's like, your life's amazing.
Yeah,
so
you just go to the doctor and be like, I don't know why I'm tired all the time. It's really strange.
I take all these weekends like you have not taken a weekend in like 6 years.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah. Could this be a slightly more aggressive or weaponized version of this, where, like, for instance, I prank one of you by injecting 3 days where you believed Total Recall to be real into your brain? Of course, for that to happen, I would need to have access to real Total Recall technology, but it would just be hidden from you.
What does that mean? Is the 3 hours like...
Where you're just like, I went to the Total Recall place and they said they could give me any vacation that I wanted.
I thought you meant...
but I can't find it now. It doesn't. I thought it was just like over on Townsend, but it's not. I went there and it's just a Subway.
I thought you meant that the actual film Total Recall was beamed into your brain in like a marathon, such that you believed like
what a terrible. I dreamt that I was in a
like,
really comfortable theater, but I had to watch Total Recall like 25 times.
No.
Yeah.
That's
not what I mean. I mean that Total Recall itself, the film, is like imprinted on your brain memories with all the like cinematic framing and editing and all of the like conceits of film. But to you, dreams work that way sometimes.
Yeah, but that's
like, so you're just like, oh yeah, remember that part where he was like the real Quaid? Yeah. Oh, that was classic.
It was.
It's like, you mean you're talking about the movie Total Recall?
No, when he, I like that you know that it's not you. Also, when
because the events of that film aren't from first person.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Where were you when you saw this? I don't know. What else was there? I don't really know. Like, was there stuff like what was like behind
I was next to him, and then I was like across from him.
I have no idea exactly. Sometimes I was.
Then I was like running down the hall, like you know.
Sometimes another guy I saw like what another guy was doing, like a bad guy. I think he was bad. Anyway, it seemed extraordinarily real, and I'm pretty sure it happened to me somehow that I experienced these things. And I'm like, and then I'm like, ha ha ha! It's because I used Total Recall technology to inject the movie Total Recall into your brain. Fuck you.
The events of the movie Total Recall,
and all the aesthetic and cinematic
in the
choices.
Film, Total Recall.
I was really close to a briefcase when it opened, but then I was behind the guy looking into the briefcase. Oh, it was really strange.
I was in this airport or whatever when this guy's face like sort of exploded. But then I saw the guy's face watching the face explode. What if actually the one that gets beamed into your head is the 2016 or whatever Total Recall? That's a bummer because no one could even relate to you when you explain whatever happened in it.
Oh, wait, sounds like Total Recall must be real because this person's having a really Total Recall-esque experience, but it's not the one that anyone knows
about.
Actually,
you know what happened is you would be explaining the things from Total Recall.
And you're like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it. And they're like, no. No.
You'd be like, yeah, remember when this happened? They're like, oh, yeah. You're talking about the movie Total Recall. It's like this. And they say it slightly differently. And you're like, no. That's not what happened. It was this like slightly less good version of that thing. Like you'd be in a weird state where people understand, like have the same memories you have, but like
dear important if true,
incontrovertibly have different like interpretations of them.
Dear important if true, what if I raised my child off of only remakes? Someone else trying to dial into this podcast?
Yeah,
we're being hacked.
Someone called the phone that we use to talk to Nick Brecken while we're doing this. So I just got the like little call waiting beep on this telephone, presumably from fucking like Quaid or someone.
It was from the other Nick Brecken from the reboot universe.
That's true. That's exactly right.
Oh, people were asking if this means like that you get 72 hours to do this, but I think it's you implant 72 hours worth of memories into someone is what the question was asking. Otherwise, it was like, do you get, you can't say like...
You have 72 hours to figure out how to implant memories into someone's brain. Start now.
Gotta cut to us in this recording studio surrounded by wires being like, Sound Blaster live, microphone in. That's not what it's called.
Someone's hacking our Nick Brecken phone call.
Someone's dialing into our iPhone. No.
We probably have about 72 hours of Important If True podcast at this point. Just cram that right in there.
Oh, I remembered. Well, that would be the... Guys... We have this new technology that will let me implant memories into any of the three of us is the specifics of these questions.
Right.
I've implanted an additional version of you sitting in this recording studio, spending 72 hours recording Important If True.
Oh, no.
Congrats. You might already remember that. Now you remember it slightly more clearly and in a compact way for no reason.
Mm-hmm. So, switching gears, we have a very... a much more mundane, I would say, day-to-day concern here from Alec from Australia, who writes, I had to stop listening to a recent podcast. After the less and fewer commentary, Jake's misuse of itching was infuriating, and I couldn't get past it. I don't know where this comes from, but it's uniquely American, and it drives me nuts. As the rest of the world correctly understands it, your leg itches. The sensation is itching. You scratch your itchy leg. The act of relieving the sensation is scratching. You do not itch yourself to relieve the sensation. To itch yourself implies willing some point on your body to itch. Also, I've been itching constantly while writing this and pausing to scratch furiously, so thanks for that. Cheers, Alec from Australia. This email itself reads like an itch to me.
Yeah.
This sort of like compulsive repetition of these words itches my brain.
Yes.
I want to scratch it.
The slightly rude tone I will ignore, and will totally
take in good faith. You'll take the email in good faith.
Yes, because it is surely true that I transposed itch and scratch. I didn't need the definition because I will point out that I write the descriptions to many episodes of Important If True, including the episode in question here that Alec was writing about. And I will quickly read the description to you to prove that I, a dumb American, at least know something.
Okay.
December 16th, 2017. There are certain pieces of knowledge, things one has observed or learned, that become like a single grain of sand in the folds of the brain. An itch you can't scratch. A thing you can't make go away. So I understand itch and scratch. That said,
on the record,
I think Americans getting like subject and object related verbs backwards is a thing because like the Great Lakes area or like Twin Cities area, a really common one is to get borrow and lend backwards. I'm going to borrow you something.
Is that a thing?
Yes, that is a big time thing.
Nick, you're from the Great Lakes area, right?
Have you never heard borrow and lend be transposed? I'm going to borrow you a book.
I guess I have, yeah. No, now that I think about it,
Yeah, and scratch itch is one that like I think people just
How the hell did you know that?
Because I have friends from the Midwest who have pointed that out as something that really bothers them. It's been in conversations like I've had, just sort of like ways that people just get language wrong.
Yeah.
That's one that has come up often is for me for some reason is borrow and lend being reversed, and it makes me wonder if getting like verbs that are related to the subject and object backwards is because of just English, because of American English. Being built up by so many people who speak languages that are conjugated in a different order than colloquial English is.
Interesting. I wonder if that's
because I mean English is a language in which subject, object, and verb basically just get shuffled around like a cup game, depending on how you want to compose your sentence, and it still holds up. But I think that because an itch is something that you scratch, but or like.
Yeah,
it seems very similar to something that is borrowed versus loaning someone something,
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It seems like we get a lot of those backwards, and it might be sloppiness, but I wonder if it's. I mean, it is sloppiness, but I don't know if it comes from actually being dumb and not understanding how language works in general, as much as other grammatical structures. Are were like people just learned English second and brought the wrong pieces of knowledge in.
It's possible. It's really hard to know, but I'm sure there are people who have studied that. I have actually two. They're not. Neither of these is like a funny thing, but I have two legitimate responses to that, Jake. One is a thing that gets passed around on the internet. I would say maybe once every 6 months, people sort of rediscover this and post a bunch about it. And it's a New York Times dialect quiz where it asks you what word from a multiple choice list you use in a certain situation. So the first question is, how would you address a group of 2 or more people? And the options are you all, yous, you lot, you guys, youans, yins, you, other, or y'all. And you answer that, and then it gives you it's 25 questions. It gives you the next one. And then you go through 25 of these, and then at the end, it's like your speech patterns are, associated with this region. And people frequently, often the reason this gets shared is because people take this quiz and go, wow, it totally nailed it, and sometimes it doesn't, but obviously, and a lot of people are from multiple places, so there's, sort of an interesting mesh. And it's just a fascinating example of regional language.
Yeah, that's good.
And how it evolves, and then, or how it sort of cements itself. And then the other thing I have, there's a podcast by Slate called Lexicon Valley by John McWhorter, who is he's a professor of linguistics at, I want to say, NYU, I think. He's definitely a school in New York, maybe Columbia, but I think it's NYU. And it's a fantastic podcast. I believe it's bi-weekly. And it is just about language, primarily the English language, because he is an American native English speaker. But it often involves linguistic sort of principles or history from all over the world. And he essentially just investigates and describes and discusses different ways the language, English language and otherwise, works and evolves, and how these things have come to be, and the etymology of words and phrases. And a big sort of thesis you can kind of get if you listen to a bunch of episodes of this podcast is that there people's ideas about what is right linguistically it just changes over the centuries. And sometimes for reasons that we can understand and sort of say, yes, it totally makes sense that this changed in this way, and it's a more efficient use of language or a more accurate, sort of more usable way to use these words. But sometimes it's for just completely indeterminate or absurd reasons, and sometimes we don't even know why a given thing changed. We can just say, well, in the 1700s, this word changed from this to this, and it's really fascinating. It's a very interesting, and he's a very engaging and sort of just fun speaker on this stuff. So that's called Lexicon Valley from Slate. And then the New York Times Dialect Quiz. I think if you just search for New York Times Dialect Quiz, you'll find it. It'll be the first result. I just tried it, and that worked out.
Nice.
So maybe, Jake, your itch and scratch is just some remnant of some long buried, even buried and buried. That's another one of those things, probably.
Yeah, it's funny to think about, to itch as a replacement for scratch. I understand why that is incorrect. But at the same time, someone saying I'm itching to do something is a total American.
I mean, that does have a different implication. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say using itch for scratch is almost like saying I'm going to dust my apartment.
Yes.
By which you mean I'm going to remove the dust in the way that scratching hopefully removes an itch.
Yes.
But you're using the actual thing you're trying to get rid of as the action.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. Well, there you go. Shall we endorse?
We should.
I will endorse first today. I am going to endorse something that I have mentioned in passing, I think, many times over the years of our podcast. I know it's certainly come up on Idle Thumbs occasionally. It may even have been mentioned once or twice on Important If True, but I'm going to officially endorse the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Oh, wow.
Which comes out every day and has done for, I don't know, since most of the 20th century, as far as I know. And I use the iPhone app, the iOS app. For some reason, the official app is only available on iPhone and iPad, which is a bummer. So if you have an Android phone, they don't have an app for that anymore. They used to, and actually, when I had an Android phone, they had an app for it, and when they discontinued that app, it was one of the reasons I switched back to iOS.
Crazy.
Yeah. I've been doing the New York Times crossword puzzle every day since, I want to say, 2009 or 2010. And I have done every puzzle since then. I don't always complete it every day within the deadline. There's sort of, you can complete any puzzle from any day you want if you have a subscription. This is a paid subscription. And it's fine. It doesn't matter. But if you complete it before, I guess, midnight Eastern time, I think is what it is. Every day you complete it within that time, it adds to your streak. So I think my highest streak is 37 days in a row completing the crossword before midnight on the day it's released. And I think my current streak is 31 or 32. So I'm actually...
It's pretty good. You're catching up.
Inching up to my top score. But I just really like having this daily ritual. It's something that has been surprisingly, in a very tiny way, but surprisingly anchoring, because it is the amount of time I've spent doing, not the amount of time I've spent, but the total chunk of contiguous life during which I have done the New York Times crossword puzzle has straddled many extremely significant life events and changes for me. And it's kind of cool to have something, and it tracks all of your stats going back years. And, I can see what's my average time to complete a Monday puzzle versus a Saturday puzzle, with those being the easiest to hardest in order. Sunday being somewhere in the middle. And it's just a very fun activity. It's something it's difficult, but you get better at it just by doing it. It's not...
That's partly because it sort of uses its own language and quirks that you get into, right? Mm-hmm. It has its own vernacular.
Yeah, exactly. You just kind of learn it, and it's not like a big deal if you're not great at it right off the bat. It's just kind of something you can plug away at and fill time without just being on Twitter or whatever on my phone, which is what I would be doing otherwise if I'm in a situation where I'm literally just killing time. This is something where occasionally I will just learn some fact incidentally or a word that I didn't know before. I would not say doing the crossword puzzle is educational in any significant way, but it's sort of a fun way to keep your brain limber day to day. And I know I am playing into my long-established old person reputation by recommending this, but, what can I say? I've been doing it every day since I was 25, so...
Oh.
Yeah. God, if I'd been doing it every day since I was 6, I would probably be able to, win crossword puzzle championships.
You would be a crossword designer by now.
Yeah, my longest streak of 620 days back in 2001.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my recommendation, New York Times crossword puzzle. There is an app for iOS, and there are other ways to do it on your computer, obviously in the daily paper as well, but you'd have to actually subscribe to the New York Times daily paper to do that. But they have I don't know how the website one works because I just do it on my phone, but there are different methods, and I will link them in the description of this episode.
I have to do a little brief endorsement of your own internally consistent style guide. When it came to the years of your phone ownership, you said 2009 to 2010, and I really appreciated that you didn't say 2009 to 10. I thought that was a really nice there was someone at an editor's desk who went, "Oh, that's correct," and they didn't leave a note on it for you. Your internal...
Or that's totally incorrect and inconsistent.
I think that in the style of newspapers writing out O-N-E
it would be
through T-E-N, or how many numbers you get past 10 before you start using the numbers. Yeah. I liked that you're...
Oh, that's a good, interesting observation. I definitely was not
your
even
2009 to 2010
that.
Was very specific, and I really enjoyed that. That's the cutoff when you switch, as far as how you talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Nick, what do you have today this week?
I have sort of complimentary endorsement. I'm going to endorse a New York Times article.
Oh. How about that?
In this sort of atmosphere of 2017 nonstop insane news, I feel like this article somehow flew under the radar, for lack of a better phrase, and I don't understand how, but it's fascinating. It's called Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program. Have you guys seen this article?
I saw this, yeah.
This is absolutely bonkers. First of all, okay, so the article
say you sort of rush through the title. Say the title again.
Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program. It's almost something we talk about on this podcast, but not quite, because it's just kind of... it's like reading about the X-Files is real. It is. The X-Files is real. I mean, former Senator Harry Reid in 2007 started a secret project funded with taxpayer money, $22 million of taxpayer funding to get the Pentagon to start a division to look into UFOs. The craziest thing about this is that so there are two aspects which are phenomenal. One is that the company that they hired to contract this work out to.
Can you imagine submitting your bid, your federal government bid to be the
what
UFO?
What do you even do?
Just page one, just ancient aliens.
We've subcontracted the ancient aliens guy. We've brought on
at a really low rate though, like really good.
Right? Yeah.
He was not expensive.
We will outbid anyone on the appearance of ancient aliens guy.
We will not be underbid.
I mean, it kind of seems like, it's insane. So number one, the company that they got to do this is run by a personal friend of Harry Reid's, which is already suspicious.
It's the ancient aliens guy.
But but the craziest thing about this is that there are videos that the Pentagon has released as part of this program that are actually kind of they escape the sort of moon gas category of UFO videos, where you can tell whatever this is, it's not probably like an atmospheric, naturally occurring phenomenon. This is probably some kind of
moon gas.
It's not moon gas.
Thing that's real.
It's I'm just saying, the fake, just the stuff that they would normally on Men in Black film or something,
weather balloon,
balloon or whatever.
Yeah.
There's something weird is being captured on these videos. That being said, the craziest paragraph of this whole article is
that being said, there's probably a real organization that can figure out what it is for real. Wow, what a fascinating phenomenon.
Well, it's still the Pentagon. So this is the craziest thing, is that about 2/3 of the way through this article, it says, under Mr. Bigelow's direction, this is the guy who runs this company, Bigelow Aerospace, the company modified buildings in Las Vegas for the storage of metal alloys and other materials that program contractors said had been recovered from UFOs. And now, so here's the thing, right? The reporters who wrote this article, one, are incredibly prestigious reporters for the New York Times. They came out with an article today to defend this, and one of the reporters went on TV and said they have these alloys, and verifiably, they have told me that they don't know what they are. They have run it through every spectrum analysis, and they don't actually know. It's crazy. It's insane that this has happened. It's published in the fucking New York Times, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody cares. Yeah. It is just the most 2017 fucking thing in the world. It is just
aliens,
amazing.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Whatever. That is the least important shit in my life right now.
Yeah, it's funny to me for many reasons, but
call
also
me back when they're literally blowing up cities. Until
right? Yeah,
then,
exactly. Yeah, we might do it ourselves. So let's yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's a fascinating read. I highly recommend it.
Yeah. All right, we'll definitely link to that.
Meanwhile, aliens.
It's so good. I love it. Anyway.
All right, Jake, you're left.
Yeah, on behalf of basically every single person who wrote us this week.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago at this point.
Yeah. Oh, I guess
people have been
recording this.
Marinating in this for a month now.
Yeah, that's true. By the time this comes out, just in case you haven't read it, I would like to endorse should I describe what this is first? Yeah, I guess. So
a procedurally aided text recreating a new chapter of Harry Potter.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe this.
Yeah.
It's
using those predictive text tools that we have.
Yeah, a lot of
the
people
very same tool
from time to time.
A lot of people, it is the same tool.
It is
actually
the exact same
a lot
tool,
of people wrote in about this saying, "Oh, a bot wrote a Harry Potter chapter," or an AI wrote a Harry Potter chapter. That's not what this is. It is a hilarious thing.
Ancient aliens wrote a Harry Potter chapter.
It's a predictive text assisted Harry Potter chapter in a fake book called Harry Potter and the Portrait of What Looked Like a Large Pile of Ash, which is a hilarious title.
I would like to point out that I read this whole thing the other day, and it is the most Harry Potter I've ever read. So the entirety of my textual familiarity with Harry Potter is this thing.
the way that it is worded reads very much like J.K. Rowling. I mean, the way that these work, we talked about it before when we used the botnik.org keyboard to write a fake episode of Important If True. You feed their tool the entirety of all of the text of all the Harry Potter books, and then it basically works like the predictive text keyboard on your iOS or Android phone, except that the only pieces of English language that it knows is how J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter. So then you can sort of just keep pressing the give me the next word, one of a few, and usually if you're a funny person or have an agenda, you can make it output some pretty funny stuff.
Funnier things.
This one, though, like the people at Botnik who made this create your own predictive text keyboard, they went all out on the Harry Potter one because they actually typeset it as if it's a Harry Potter novel and took photographs of it as if it's like a lost
it looks
Harry
like
Potter
they actually
work.
Printed it onto that really distinctive
onto book paper.
Yeah,
it's very nice. I don't even know if it's worth reading any pieces of this or not.
It's what the readers demand, certainly.
I guess I can read the first page of the chapter they released, which is chapter 13,
Go for
The
it.
Handsome One. So this is, partway through the classic Harry Potter and the Portrait of what looked like a pile of ash, a large pile of ash. So chapter 13, The Handsome One. The castle grounds snarled with a wave of magically magnified wind. The sky outside was a great black ceiling which was full of blood. The only sounds drifting from Hagrid's hut were the disdainful shrieks of his own furniture. Magic. It was something that Harry Potter thought was very good. Leathery sheets of rain lashed at Harry's ghost as he walked across the grounds towards the castle.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron was standing there and doing a kind of frenzied tap dance. He saw Harry and immediately began to eat Hermione's family. This is my favorite sentence, though. God, I can't even say it. Its construction is so insane and it's so good.
You want me to do it?
No. Ron's Ron shirt was just as bad as Ron himself. Oh, the image of Ron wearing a Ron shirt.
Yeah, no, that's the best.
I don't know anything about this character, like what this is.
He's kind of a goof.
It's just a doofus.
Makes him sound like the most pathetic asshole you could ever imagine.
He is.
Well,
it's
the guy who shows up wearing a shirt of his own face on himself,
and then
everyone's like, "Oh God, Ron!"
It's surprisingly in character. If you two can't clump happily, I'm going to get aggressive, confessed the reasonable Hermione. So anyway, that's page 1 of what is many pages. The addendum to this is there's an illustrator on Twitter named Megan Nicole Dong who goes by she's at Sketch Shark on Twitter, and
very good Twitter artist.
Really good Twitter account to follow. But she went and did a ton of illustrations of the moments depicted in these, and they're really good.
Yeah.
I was looking to see if Ron's Ron shirt is depicted, and I'm sure it is, but
we'll link to some highlights.
Yeah, it's worth going and looking through. It's really good depictions of this stupid garbage. Oh yeah, there it is.
Here's Ron's Ron shirt. This is exactly what I pictured when I thought of this.
Yeah,
this like dipshit in shades wearing a shirt that's
of himself.
In the illustration, his shirt reads "Bad Ron."
Yep, it's good.
Very good. That's a good interpretation because that implies bad in the Michael Jackson sense.
Yep.
Yeah,
but also bad.
But also definitely bad. All right. Well, those are our endorsements. That's what we endorse to you this week. Thank you for listening to Important If True. If you have a question, if you need our advice, if you need us to solve a problem for you or work anything through, please go ahead and send it to questions@importantiftrue.com and we will do our best. We may or may not be back next week. We will try to be back next week. I'm still going to be out of town for most of the week, so not sure if we'll be able to swing it, but we'll just see what happens. If not, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and thank you for sticking with us. If you like the show, please tell a friend. That is the only route we have to growing our audience, finding new listeners to share this show with. And it means a lot to us when you all do, when you share it on Twitter, Facebook, or in person, or wherever else you do. It is really, really cool. And thank you so much for doing that.
It's so cool.
It is so cool. Our website is importantiftrue.com, and there are links to everywhere that we reside on the internet.
And there are links to everywhere.
There are links to everywhere.
Chris has been replaced by a Botnik keyboard.
Mm-hmm. Every episode also has a forum thread, so you can discuss our dumb bullshit with other people who listen to this podcast, and those are all linked on our website, and I think in the description to each episode on the podcast description. Is that true? I don't remember. I don't think so.
The forums?
Yeah.
We should, but they aren't.
We should. They aren't right now.
We did that on the Twin Peaks podcast. We always said discuss it in the forums.
Yeah, we should do that. Well, in any case, importantiftrue.com, you can find stuff there. Thank you for listening. We will be back in 1 or 2 weeks. For Idle Thumbs, I am Chris Remo.
I'm Nick Brecken.
I'm Jake Rodkin. Until then,
stay spicy.
stay spicy.
Stay that way.
I'm behind a little bit. I'm lagged.
That's okay. I'll cut the difference.